It is an absolutely fabulous afternoon and an absolutely fabulous racetrack. It is time for the Pirelli GT4 America Sprint Championship. First of the doubleheaders, this is round 10, presented by CrowdStrike. Great to have you all with us. Greg Creamer alongside Calvin Fish. You take a look at the history. There's a great example of it. The Sir Jackie Stewart Grandstand. This place has been special in so many ways for so long. And with the SRO Championships arriving this weekend and the SRO America World Challenge, the tradition continues. Beautiful venue here, beautiful day. I'm alongside Calvin Fish, and Ryan Marine is down in pit lane and is covering all of the action for us down there. Absolutely fabulous day to be around some beautiful race cars, Ryan.
It's a beautiful day, a beautiful grid of GT4 cars about ready to go here in our Pirelli GT4 America Sprint competition. And how about this front row? We've got Jared Andretti on pole, his first overall pole in Sprint competition in his career, and then the championship points leader alongside Ian James. One interesting note, by the way, before we go a little bit deeper in the field, these cars will be given 2 pace laps, 2 formation laps. That's something that a number of these competitors have been asking for, simply to give them a little bit of extra time to build tire temperature and tire pressure before we go to green. Looking a little further back, how about those beautiful 74 Ranch Resort Camaros? It's the Robinson Racing pairing. We've got Gar Robinson starting third, Shane Lewis alongside, and that third row is a fascinating one from the championship perspective. These are 2 guys hungry to get to the front. Spencer Pumpelly in the Porsche, Michael Cooper in the McLaren, who has overcome some turbo issues to post some fast times here so far at Watkins Glen. A couple of guys to watch starting a bit further back than they would like.
Yeah, and that's a very good point, especially when you look at what Michael Cooper was able to do in practice, Cal, topping both of the sessions. To see him in 6, bit of a surprise.
It really is a surprise, as Ryan alluded to, seeing both of those championship contenders back there on the third row. Great news for Ian James, even though he didn't claim the pole position. It was a monster lap by Jared Andretti. Still good for him in the big picture of the championship. I think for Ian coming to this racetrack, we're seeing the Panos so strong and well suited to the majority of the circuits, but when you get to the high speed sections like that last 100, 200 yards of the straightaways, as we're as vulnerable. So Ian's going to have to put his experience to use here and maintain that track position as long as he can.
And after kind of going through a little bit of a dip in terms of results, seeing both of those 74 Ranch Resort Camaros in that second row, good medicine for that team.
It really is, because they came out the box so strong. Gar Robinson was in the championship lead at one point, and then just went in a little bit of a lean spell. And good to see them with the big break that we've just experienced, kind of back on form. Had a chance to regroup the troops, and good to see them on the second row and looking strong for a win here today.
Well, you know, Jimmy Fraser and that team were not taking that dip in performance very well, and they were determined to come up with a solution for it. Clearly they have. And, you know, that's one of those things we were talking about relative to the Mustang, say, that Drew Stavely is running, that, you know, you think of those cars and that sound in that V8 as just being all straight line monster. But in the GT4 homologation area, that's not necessarily the case. And those Camaros and this Mustang have become actually known as being very good on brakes and the like. Everything you would think they wouldn't be with that big power plant.
No, when we talk about at face value, you think big muscle car, all straightaway speed and trying to get your way around the corner somehow. No, they have a lot of downforce, which means they're really good on the brakes as well. So this will be a fascinating show here with a lot of different manufacturers represented up at the sharp end of the field. Championship certainly starting to heat up and come to the ball nicely. 6 rounds to go, 3 big doubleheader events beginning with this one, and the chase for the championship crown at Vegas.
Yeah, we talk about this track and its beauty and its history, but let's take a look at its layout, Cal, and it's a great one.
You can see just under 5.5K, just under 3.5 miles, 11 turns. Traditional, old school, high consequence racetrack. You make a mistake, not a lot of room, but we do have some generous runoff areas, such as down into turn 1. First sector is really all about turn 1, then we're up through the S's. Inner loop is critical for speed to set up the carousel. The outer loop there, and then you get into sector 3. That's all about the toe of the boot, the heel, and just being super precise. And you need a car that's going to really work well through that sector. Otherwise, you can lose a ton of time.
And this one is going to be 50 minutes, as it is the historic sprint format, if you will. 1 driver per car, no driver changes. And there is a driver. It's nice to have him back in the championship. Last time he raced was right here at Watkins Glen when he won the GTSA AM Sprint Championship in that very Maserati. And I haven't seen him doing much racing since, but he is back and looks to have lost absolutely no of that level of speed. There's Cooper, and here's the rest of that field. And again, as Ryan was talking about, we'll be doing 2 pace laps here just to make sure that they get adequate heat. It's a coolish kind of day, so they make sure they get heat and thus the right pressures in these tires before just going after it, heading down to turn 1.
Yeah, and I think we've seen a couple little niggly tire issues throughout the course of the weekend, so I think this is the right choice by the competitors and Pirelli to give these drivers an extra lap. The real key is to get the pressures and the temps up into their sweet spot before you start to attack some of the curves that is the makeup of this racetrack.
That's a very good point. I mean, this track and all of the really key corners, you tend to be up on the curb a lot here. It's very much a part of this racetrack. As a matter of fact, the race directors, and in fact, I think have been very generous in saying we'll give you virtually all the curb. As long as you got a tire touching the curb, it's good. Like in this section, though, we don't want a tire touching grass. If you do that, it's going to be a penalty. And everybody's been respecting that, I think, fairly well.
Yeah, it's nice. It's nice to have that little cushion, that little safety net. If you do exceed the boundaries in terms of running out of road, there is that runoff area. And they're going to be pretty lenient, I feel. It's very hard to police. The corner workers don't always have good vantage points. So unless they see it on TV, that's a little bit unfair because other drivers are not on camera and they may be taking advantage of it. So I think they're going to be lenient with it. But if you continually abuse it or if you gain track position, you need to give it back, essentially.
Absolutely. By the way, you will note that the clock has started. That was one of the concessions that had to be made, was that if you wanted that extra pace lap, it would eat that much time out of the race. But again, I think the right call, as you pointed out here, and you take a look at that lineup there. Drew Stavely in the number 12, Ian Lacey, G3 Racing Mustang, starts 7th overall, but Jeff Courtney right there in 8th, and Jeff Burton, who just continues to impress every race he shows up at. We're seeing better and better speed and racecraft from him in the 91 Reardon Racing Burton Lumber entry. Then Michael McCann Jr., we haven't seen doing a lot of GT4 level racing. He's done a lot of TCR racing this year. Not a bad run up into the top 10 in qualifying.
He's having a great weekend. He's at the sharp end as well in the TCR battle that we'll see a little bit later on this afternoon. So Michael McCann Jr. having a big, big day.
And Michael Dinan ended up 4th in AM, and I need to give a shout out to Tony Gaples, who is self-admitted, says he's not the greatest qualifier, but a top 5 in AM qualifying. And he tends to make up a lot of spots during the race, so we'll see how that plays out here as the field now starting to form up as we are heading down into turn 8 and getting ready to start officially the green flag part of this 50-minute race as the clock has already begun. A couple other guys to watch, that bright yellow Volt Lighting Park Place Porsche. You've got an awfully aggressive, fast driver in Alan Brynjolfsson in that one, too. The first of the two, right?
Right. He's certainly capable of making some things happen. Had a lot of success with that team, led by Mike Johnson on the pit box, and he'll be joining Trent Hindman a little bit later this afternoon in Sprint X competition as well.
Thomas Collingwood is in that second one. That's from BGB Motorsports. He's had some solid runs this season for the Canadian as well. Marco Radicic in his precision driving tech. Number 22 right there as well. But it is time for green flag, and Jared Andretti bringing him through this final turn. And Ian James right alongside. Field looks really nicely placed at this stage. There's the green flag. Andretti just enough, noses ahead. James not there for the move down to the inside. And the 274 Ranch Camaro is slotting right into 3rd and 4th.
Andretti carried a lot of speed down at the apex of turn 1 and just probably used the ABS there to just sort things out. Side by side between Pompelli and Cooper there. That's the battle for 5th right now, early in the run. Big run here by Robinson on Ian James. This is where James is vulnerable.
Got him. Right up and around the outside. Yeah, you called it. And Cooper able to slice around Pompelli from the outside as well and pick up that 6th spot, or that 5th spot, excuse me. Oh, look at Lewis working over James now.
Well, Jared Andretti has scampered away here a little bit. James trying to come back at Robinson down into the brake zone. Stavely having a nice run. He leads the AM class right now, 7th overall behind Michael Cooper there. Black and white and orange Mustang GT4.
Top 3 in AM run together right behind Stavely. That black and orange Maserati, and then the blue and black Audi of Reardon Racing's entry, of Burton, I should say.
Should be the section of the racetrack where Ian James has a little bit of an advantage, but obviously tough to make a move right now. He'll just settle in. He's got to be thinking of the big picture. He'll be keeping an eye on his rearview mirrors to if Cooper and Pumpelly can join this party. Lewis on the power early in the 72 car, trying to put the pressure on Ian James.
Very quick corner here. Through turn 10, and as you can see, you talked about it, Andretti, that little bit of a margin.
He's comfortable being out front, and I think his background of like short 10-minute sprint car races bodes well in terms of getting up to speed quickly. And we've also seen him, particularly at VIR, where he had the unfortunate loss of the lead late in the going, but he led comfortably. So I don't think he's going to be intimidated. He's been in this position before. He'll probably feel pretty confident and comfortable out front right now with a fast race car underneath him.
And swings up through the S's. Robinson draws away a little bit from James, and this is what you were talking about. And now Lewis is going to try and do this. He moves to the inside. James tries to cover, but Lewis got his nose in there.
And Ian has to think about the big picture of the championship, just decides to give it up. Didn't make it easy, and that's allowed Michael Cooper right on his tail, right? So from Ian James, he had a 4-position delta back to his nearest title contenders, and now they're right on his tail in the early going.
Yeah, and that blue Porsche with the black hood from Racers Group, that's Pumpelly, third in the points. So top 3 in the points now. Pretty much together on track. Stavely, oh, look at that. Nice job as Reardon has gone around Courtney and picked up second. And Burton in the Reardon Audi has gone around and picked up second in AM.
Yeah, he's really confident. I had a chat with him this weekend, and he just said, yeah, things are going great. He had a big smile on his face, and I said, you just look more and more comfortable each race. He says, just seat time. He said, I got a great sponge in terms of being able to feed off of Vesco Kozrov.
Stavely sticking right with this battle of pros up front. Not a huge surprise considering I think it was in the Sprint X race at Portland he had an overall pole, so he's a pretty accomplished AM driver.
Yeah, and I think for that team, Ian Lacey Racing switching over from the Ginettas to this Ford Mustang platform. Took them a couple of rounds to really find their feet and figure it out, but now they're just very, very strong.
Well, Stavely does a lot of, he's part of the Ford Performance Motorsports School at Utah. And Frank Gannett, that's where he started his racing. So they said everybody thought, oh, okay, well, you know, I'll go with these Mustangs from Gannett and we'll be right back. And these GT4 Mustangs are a bit different than like the old GTS Mustang.
They got Whitmer in the camp now on a full-time basis, sharing the other car with Frank Gannett in Sprint X competition. So it's another set of information to work from a really experienced driver.
Good look there at Pumpelly as he's continuing to just try at this stage, stay with Cooper, be in the big picture. I mean, you look at it, not a whole lot separating that top 3 in terms of the points. I think it's 8. Covers the top 3, so.
Every position counts at this stage of the game. As we mentioned in the qualifying this morning, it could have been a totally different championship picture right now if it wasn't for Spencer's awful run at VIR, where he had a couple of solid runs going and went away with a big goose egg. And tough to come back from that. You're always going to be, reminded that what if? Well, you just have to focus forward. He's still very much in the hunt, but he realizes he's got to gain positions on Ian James, not lose more points to him.
Absolutely. He is certainly working over Pumpelly as Cooper at this stage. As you see Pumpelly there, that SL Solutions Pastime and Racing Series Wines Porsche from the Racers Group just glued to the rear deck of Cooper's Black Duck McLaren.
Not sure what happened from the practices because Michael led both on. A lot of that is down to what sort of tires you're running and such, so you can sometimes get a strange perspective of who has the pace until qualifying really starts. But everyone came into qualifying this morning expecting Michael Cooper to be the man to beat. And as we talked about at the top of the show, qualified way back on the 3rd row with Spencer.
And the important thing to keep in mind here, and you know, you watch Stavely behind these two, the black McLaren of Cooper and the blue black Porsche of Spencer, is if Stavely gets through, that hurts them in points because they get points on the overall if you're running in the pro category. So last thing they want is to be back in the throes of some really fast AM drivers.
See Jarrett's approach to some of these corners. He tends to shallow his turn-in point a little bit, but he seems to make it work.
Yeah.
Doesn't run kind of the classic high arcs into some of these approaches.
Ian James right now fastest lap of the race at 1:56.5, and that's important because it establishes who starts where in tomorrow's race. And Ian's got a good one. Every time he gets a run going, he runs right up behind Lewis and then stalls out just a little bit.
Well, that's the key, isn't it? There's a real strategy to that in terms of whilst the tires are still giving you really phenomenal grip, and the Pirelli P0s gap the traffic, don't just be able to run at their pace. If you got a little bit more, sit back a little bit and then have one lap where you just put it down.
I think it's going to be a fascinating study for this whole race here, Cooper and Pompelli. Because right now you look at the laps and they're just not able at this stage to run the pace of James. Now Pompelli possibly, if he can get through on Cooper, because he's having, doesn't appear to have much of an issue staying with him.
A couple of corners where he looks like he's a little bit quicker than Michael, but nowhere to go with it yet. If he could clear him, maybe he could gap him a little bit and close in on Ian. Looks to have a slight edge maybe there on the straightaway speed to the Porsche. I'll tell you what, Robinson is a lot closer to Andretti this lap. Took half a second out of that lead.
Yeah, 56.8 for Robinson. Andretti's 57.3. Andretti knows it too. Look at, now he's running way to the inside.
Key is to be proactive. Certainly the driver stewards here will not allow you to be reacting and moving around too much. So he recognized the fact that those big Camaros were a lot closer to him, and he preempted anything by just running down the right-hand side of the road on that back straightaway.
That's really the rule, isn't it? You can go anywhere you want on the track as long as it's not reactive to somebody behind you. There's a good little scrap here as we drop back. The number 2 of Jason Bell, working over Michael Dinan, who has dropped down the pack just a little bit. He had qualified 11th overall. He was slipped now to 17th.
Ooh, really wide there. He's out in the gray. Just recovers in the backdrop there. You can see it.
Yep. Collingwood now trying to work through these guys as well.
Gaggle of Porsches going hard out of the position.
Number 2 of Bell. A little farther up, that's the 9 to Sean Quinlan, that orange and blue car trying to get down to the inside of Marco Radisek. Precision driving tech, black BMW.
You see Marco back, having missed the rounds up in Canada, so it's been an awfully long break for him.
He's a fun character.
Yes, he is.
In general.
What a flow to this racetrack, these last few corners.
Oh, did he get a run? That's on Clennon. And the KPR McLaren. Radisek down to the inside, he's through. Clennon going to try and do the cut under, and the Premier Copy KPR McLaren couldn't quite get it done, and Radisek picks up a spot. Let's get back down to pit lane and Ryan.
Thanks, Greg. Ray Sorensen is the team manager for Black Dog Speed Shop, and you and this crew were hard at work earlier in the weekend with a turbo issue on Michael's car. First of all, just how intensive, I suppose, were those repairs, and do you have them all sorted out?
Yeah, we have them all sorted out. The guys really did a really great job. We were here pretty late. Took us quite some time to sort it. Unfortunately, we put the car together and found another problem, so kind of had to backtrack and take quite a lot of the car apart again just to get back to it. So that was unfortunate, but you know, as I would say, we're still learning these cars, so sometimes it's just going to happen.
Michael's pace in practice was really impressive. given that, were you surprised with where you ended up in qualifying, or is that about where you thought you would shake out?
No, I was a little, I wasn't so pleased with qualifying just because there's a couple things changed there from the series on our side. So not really happy about that. We'll just have to see how the day goes and shake it up.
Good luck the rest of the way.
Thanks, I appreciate it.
All right, Ray Sorensen obviously a little bit frustrated there, and you saw while the interview was unfolding, we have a new leader as 74 of Robinson going to the front and did it in that run out of the toe of the boot down into 8 cal.
He did it really nicely. Gerald Andretti was not one to give it up in the endurance McLaren, but Gar just handled that perfectly in terms of positioning the car and then middle of the road on the climb back up to turn 9. Let's take another look at it here. Obviously gets a better run out of the toe, gets through the flank of Andretti. Andretti takes it in super deep, tries to run around the outside, which would give him the inside position. But Gar just gets on the pass slightly early and then just watches this, just positions that car perfectly, not giving Jarrett the opportunity to respond.
And you got to give them both a lot of credit. I mean, Andretti, when he turned into 8, was obviously trying to make it difficult, and he did, but he didn't make it impossible. He gave him enough of a lane, and Robinson kept that car tucked in tight and did what he had to do. That's a thing of beauty to watch a pass execute like that. That's just respect.
It is, and that's what the stewards are looking for, and that's what they try and drum into the competitors here. Listen, you can have hard racing just like that. Battle it out, don't give it easy to anyone, but don't trade paint, don't crash race cars. And I think the stewards are doing a wonderful job in terms of talking to the drivers and making them understand. I mean, these GT4 machines are beautiful, but they're expensive.
Yes.
And you don't want to be hurting
really
them and fixing them.
Oh, and Lewis this time wanted to get the run and do something with it, and instead it might be the Panos. No, James not quite close enough, I don't think, unless he's just demon deep on the brakes here and thinks better of that. Tucks back in behind. You know, that little bit of respect running the outside by Andretti, I wonder if some of that isn't fueled by, you know, like you said, is the other type of racing he does is open wheel dirt cars. Lock wheels, not good, so you tend to give people that enough room.
It's like Stabley's all over Pompelli in the backdrop there.
Yeah. Yep, he's caught him.
He's doing a nice job as well.
And Burton, as we've talked about that. And look at Brynjolfsson has worked his way up. Now he's 4th in the AM category.
And James, what does he have up his sleeve?
Yes. Everybody you talk to, they say, you never know what Ian has until the last 2 laps. Because even if he's coming after you in the last 5 laps, in those 3 before it, he's still not showing what he's got.
Right,
he's
pretty
so
shrewd.
crafty.
Yeah. Look at this. This could be a,
what a
9-car battle
yeah.
for the lead here soon. I mean, the gap between 9th and the lead is 3.8 seconds.
That's impressive. Very, very close. Oh, good run again by Lewis. And again, Andretti doing a nice job of placing the car where Lewis can't do anything with it. And it stymies Ian James and the red, white, and blue Panos.
And they're running the cushion.
Yeah.
Seems to keep the speed up, maybe it just matches his gear ratio to run that slightly wider radius. Keeps that Panos in its sweet spot. It's got monster torque coming off that corner as well. Lewis sees his teammate in the lead. He wants to go up there and hassle him for it.
Oh,
be careful here.
Yeah.
James is going to get a run.
Gar Robinson just continues now with all of the defense now that Andretti's got to put up here. He's going to open that margin up just a little bit. And Lewis felt he had to defend on James in the Panos, and that gave Andretti just a little bit of breathing room.
Robinson looking super comfortable up front. Still looking for his first win here. But he's won the Trans Am competition. And, I don't think he's going to be spooked by being up front right now.
He's won a couple championships, I think. Trans Am Racing, yep. So
he's got that nice little buffer. Just under a second, but it just keeps the pressure off from behind. Don't have to defend, don't have to compromise your line, just try and execute, looking super smooth up front. Pompelli just hasn't really had a good look at Cooper for a change of position. Byrne doing another amazing job running second in class.
he really is.
8th overall. Courtney having a nice return to competition as well. The big concern for Courtney, talking to him yesterday, they've still been having gearbox gremlins with that Maserati. And he said they only flare out about 30 to 40 minutes into a run. So he said as fine as you get the long run going, he said unfortunately typically going to get a long run during the race. So.
Oh, yes, and here, look at that. Lewis mirroring what Gar Robinson did, Cal. Just squared up the boot, the toe of the boot a little bit, got to the inside.
I think Jared has to tuck back in, otherwise he's going to open up the door for Ian James at the same time.
Ooh, Ian's got that outside here now.
He's got to be careful, though. He knows that Jared's a pretty aggressive young racer, so doesn't want to put his car in the wrong position here.
Is he alongside coming now into 10? Yeah. Went for it there. Oh, Andretti way wide. And that was it. Boy, that was that was just putting the pressure on at the right spot, wasn't it?
Yeah, and look how he's gapped him immediately. Just super clean run through the final corner for Ian James. Takes the pressure off his tail immediately. Now he can focus forward on the two Camaros.
You know, the one thing that I was watching the last time, let's see if he does it again up through the inner loop or the bus stop, as they call it here. If he's touching curbs, it's barely. Everybody else is all over him. He is taking care of those tires.
Yes, and you have to be smart, even if it's costing you a 10th or 2. You just got to really protect the car and think about that championship. Andretti's in trouble.
Yep, he's fading. Oh,
tire.
Yep.
Left front, maybe.
Yep, it sure is.
What a disappointment.
It's such a good run. Brings it to a stop. There, got that tire bundle chicane. Just if you happen to overshoot, you can drive through that chicane and then continue safely. Unfortunately, his day is done.
Curious to see if the, oh good, he's got to move a little bit. I was going to say, I'm not sure the stewards would be happy if he just parked it there. If someone did have an issue and went straight. Had a stationary car right in the impact zone, so unfortunately he's got through the chicane. Now Ian James is immediately, now he's cleared Andretti. He's immediately put the pressure on the Camaros.
I was wondering if Jarrett just was waiting for the traffic to go through, and then he could just drive out cleanly and not affect anybody. Class move. Meanwhile, watching a great run up front here for Robinson Racing, Ryan.
Jimmy Frazier's the team manager for Robinson Racing. A couple of your Camaros running up front. That's got to be a beautiful sight.
Yeah, we've been testing hard and working really hard, and I mean, just as much work as we can do on them. The guys are good, and the drivers have been great, and we needed to get to the front early because it's just where you got to be here. It's just too hard to pass.
It's been a pretty big gap between races. Were you able to use that to your advantage and do some testing, do some development?
Yeah, we did a couple tests, and that, you know, you learn a lot. Usually throw away half the stuff you want to try, but you can't stop trying. It worked.
Your two guys are up front. Do they have free reign to fight for the lead with that Panos bearing down on them?
Yep, absolutely. I mean, we're all in a points battle, so they won't. I'm not worried about them hurting each other, but yeah, they can go. They're turn them loose. They're gone. We turned them loose.
Thank you, Jimmy.
You're welcome.
I like that. Turned him loose, let him run. And as we watch, unfortunately, for Jared Andretti limping down into pit lane, but a nice job bringing that car around. Doesn't look like there's been any damage done to the wheel well, let alone then maybe the suspension. So tire change, and he might be able to get back out and again get a lap if he doesn't have the kind of lap he wants right now.
Up front, certainly Lewis had a big run on Gar Robinson there. He's got so much experience, as does Ian James right behind him. But when his two teammates, you've got to feel that Shane is not going to do anything too rash. Changing this left front, trying to get Jared back out there.
got to be just mega frustrating to have the pole, have that great early run. But now he's just got to put his head down and throw down a flyer here.
Yeah.
Right now, James at a 56.5.
He's got a 56.8 on the board, Jared Andretti,
terrible,
so he's probably on the top 3 rows at least, but still a lot of time on the clock, halfway.
These 3 now found themselves a couple of seconds clear. Cooper in that great battle behind him. It looks like Burton might be taking a look. He was, but wasn't close enough to do anything with Stavely.
How impressive is this, Jeff?
Yeah.
My hat is off to you.
Truly.
Done an amazing job. And they have definitely got those Audis hooked up here this weekend, racing. Great job by that team. They too have been testing, and makes the difference.
It does.
You just roll off the truck so much stronger, and then you're fine-tuning instead of just kind of throwing things out the race car. And you only have so many sessions, so it only allows so many big changes.
Right.
Whereas in a test day, you can really work through a catalog of things. And as Jimmy said, some of the things you just throw away, but they've been in your notebook. You want to try them. And oh, problems there. A little lockup, was it? Or is there a tire issue on Burton?
I don't know.
It's a little puff of smoke.
Yeah. Certainly, he's dropped off. Oh, yeah, there it goes. Now, is that bodywork down on the tire, or is that that's got to be a cut tire?
Yeah, I think so. Once there's not a lot of room, so once the tire no longer holds its normal form, it's just going to get into the bodywork, the inner fender at least.
That's a shame because he had. I mean, for him to be, as a relatively inexperienced driver, fighting for the lead in AM, that was great stuff.
Yeah, that's a bit of a heartbreaker. Up front now.
Look at this. And again, every time I've watched Ian go through the inner loop, the other cars are up on those curves, and he is just tiptoeing his way through there.
Well, he knows that any kind of drama is going to dig him a big hole in the points. He has a 3-point margin currently over Michael Cooper, and only 8 points off of Spencer Pompelli, and they sit there in his rearview mirror. So he just has to be really smart here in terms of managing this championship lead to the end of the season.
It's also interesting here to if there's anything Pompelli's going to be able to do with Cooper.
He's just sat there, isn't he?
He has. I mean, he gets really close, but it's not like, you know, he's showing the nose or anything even. He just is there. Yeah, it's both of those Camaros up on those curves, and Ian just maybe a touch. Yeah. He is really just a joy to watch race. You can just see his mind working.
Now, it's execution at the highest level, but that doesn't always still guarantee you the win because there's so many strong cars and competitors out there. Everyone's going to have their day in the sun.
By the way, it was the first time I saw Pompelli really show a nose to Cooper going down into the laces. So maybe he's decided it's time.
Ian really likes that wider line there through the toe, doesn't he?
Well, and you brought up a good point a few laps ago. You're talking about if you've got an issue with the gearing in the car, sometimes you just drive a wider arc through a corner or a tighter arc through the corner to get you into the power band you really need. Yeah.
Yep.
Lots of little things you can do for drive arounds.
It just rolls a little bit more speed. Safety car is out.
Oh boy. I'm not sure this is what Ian wanted to see at all. But it's sure going to bring the rest of the field right up into the mix.
Not quite sure why the safety car is out unless there's any tire debris from the couple of cars that have had issues.
Yeah, it's what you have to think it would be. Ah, what a shame. And interestingly, for Stavely and Courtney, his caution is going to bring a guy named Brynjolfsson right to their rear decks. And once he got up through, he had to come up through the field a little bit, but he cleared Gaples and Balug, and then he just started dropping his times down just a little bit. So this will be fun to watch.
Yes. Bit of a reset here. Just have to wonder whether Michael Cooper and Spencer are just on their own agenda right now through the first half of this race.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah.
Just sit here and ride a little bit. It's a bit like a super speedway with the NASCAR boys.
That's Dynan coming down into pit lane for Flying Lizard team in the 210. Busy lad this weekend after missing a few races with an injury. He's back, and he's not only running in Sprint, he's running in Sprint X with Robbie Foley. And they're going for the left rear tire on that car.
I missed that, say again.
Robinson circulating. He's a cool character, Gar.
He is.
A real chip off the old block on his dad, George, for a long time. He was a good racer.
Yes, he was. I had to call on him back in the glory days of Trans Am in the 90s, and he could get after it. Meanwhile, as we watch Jared Andretti circulating around, let's get down to Ryan, get an update on Andretti Autosport.
Yeah, unfortunately, we saw Jared have to come to pit road with the tire issue just a few moments ago. Running really well, started on pole. Did he have any warning that something might be amiss?
No, I mean, he didn't say anything. You know, it's just, we'll see what happens. We'll go back to work on it, and, you know, unfortunately, another one got away from us.
Yes, that is unfortunate because the car has shown an incredible pace throughout the year. What do you need to get that extra step, to get some of the results that would be commensurate with the pace that you've shown?
We just got to do a little bit better job. I mean, we haven't seen anything for a whole test day here. We run virtually a lap or a race and a half on a set of tires. Didn't have any issue, so we thought we were pretty safe on stuff. You know, just got to go back and go to work on things, and that's the only way to get better, the only way to win.
This full course yellow helps a little bit, perhaps, to get Jared back in contention to make up a few spots.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't hurt, so we'll see what happens.
Good luck. Thanks.
Thank you.
Well, you know, and that is the sound of someone who has a tremendous amount of experience over the years. As we watch the rear end car, they're just taking that back to the paddock right now. But Robin Pemberton, I love that approach. Is that there are lots of different things that you could blame stuff on. But he's been around the block for so long, he knows the real answer is we just got to do a better job at figuring it out. That's how you win.
Right.
I mean, and I think, there's some evidence.
Staying calm.
Yeah.
It's frustrating, but that's not going to really get you the result you're looking for either later today or tomorrow.
Seeing that sweeper truck out there makes you think there's just been too much debris somewhere on the track. Unless, of course, one of those punctures got into a radiator. Maybe they had to clean up fluid or something as well. So let's check back in with Ryan on what's unfolding in the Panos camp.
Yeah, curious what this restart might look like for the Panos camp. Preston Calvert knows what it's like to run one of these Panos cars. He'll be running in the Sprint X race a little bit later. Can you put us into the mindset, perhaps, that Ian is in behind the wheel of a car that you know well?
Well, I'm sure he's a little bit disappointed that he's now had to give up the 2.5-second gap that he managed to pull very, with great effort over the McLarens that are behind him. But he's now got to deal with the extra horsepower probably that the Camaros have at the start, and he's going to be really worried about Michael Cooper behind him in the McLaren, who he's just ahead of in the points. So it's Ian on the radio indicated, this is not what we needed, and it's basically, a new game, and we'll see if we can make it through turn one and hold on. So.
I know you follow this series as much as the one that you race in yourself. It is kind of uncanny, isn't it, that Ian and Spencer and Michael, they always seem to end up together, and they're the three protagonists for the championship.
Yeah, I think good drivers, cars that are reasonably well balanced. And a championship that is very meaningful. So they all are, working hard, driving their absolute hardest, trying to take care of the tires, which everybody here is a bit concerned about. But not to the extent that they're not going to drive to the utmost. So, yeah, it's a great bunch of guys, and it's the pointy end of this field.
Thanks for the insight, and good luck in your race today, too.
Thank you very much.
All right, thanks, Ryan. It lights out, so we should be going back to green. And I think, part of what he's alluding to, yeah, he wasn't happy to have Cooper and Pumpelly, be gifted 2.5 seconds, but he was taking care of his tires so beautifully, and those two Camaros in front were pushing harder. I think he's upset about that as well, because that's kind of negated all the work he did on that level, didn't it? Yeah.
But still a chunk of time. This isn't a 5-minute sprint to the finish.
Oh, no.
We've got 14 minutes plus left.
Yep. And you saw the safety vehicle take off and give these drivers a little bit of a gap. It's up to Gar Robinson now as he leads them through the final turn onto the front straight, rolls into the throttle. We're back at speed, and soon we will be back to green flag here for the final 14.5 minutes or thereabouts. And there it flies.
I think Ian James was still worried about managing Michael Cooper. He let the two Camaros take off on him. I think he was concerned that Cooper could get a jump on him, and before he knew it, the two Ranch 74 cars were on the power.
And we saw, obviously, Dynan duck into the pits. They put a new tire on that car, so he might be a little racy. And looks like Andretti had just given himself a huge gap. And maybe with those cool tires, he wants to try and find a little bit more in terms of lap time, although you said he's got a good one already. This is going to be fun. Stavely and Courtney, that Maserati's got legs. No question about that. And then you've got Brynjolfsson right there coming into view.
Yeah, it's a good track for the Maserati, so this may be good for Jeff as well. That little cool down period, as we said, he's had some transmission area issues that seem to transpire about 40 minutes in with hard running, so maybe that's enough to give him a little bit of a cooling off period.
Yeah, very good point. And I think you may be right on Ian James, because trying to make sure and manage, as you put it on Cooper here. And those two Camaros with nice cooled off tires, able to build a bit of a gap here. But still, as you said, 13 to go. And for Cooper and Pumpelly, they're able to ease away a little bit from Stavely in the group. And I keep pointing that out, that that's important, because the pro drivers get scored on overall, and you don't want any of those AMs sliding through on you and taking points away.
Yeah, I think with Stavely, he's got his focus on winning another championship in
Yes.
class. So I think ideally he'd like these front runners to maybe gap him a little bit and let him just control his own race, battling with Jeff Courtney and Brynjolfsson for the big points here today. He doesn't want to have to mess with Pumpelly necessarily. I mean, he's a racer, don't get me wrong. He wants a hard race, but he's focused on his own championship.
Yeah, Stavely's got a decent little margin, some 36 points, back to the guy in second. So I guess that begs the question. Obviously, Courtney's not in this championship. If he gets really aggressive, does Stavely let him through?
I think the key is Jeff Courtney is not typically super aggressive. He's super smart, you know what I mean? And he'll take a pass if it's there, but he's not going to be take any chances. So in terms of Stavely's position, he's got the track position. He's got a driver behind him who's going to show him a lot of respect.
And those two, we had talked about the prospect of Brynjolfsson and that bright yellow Volt Lighting Park Place Porsche coming after him. And he hasn't been able to quite stay with them at this stage. So for Stavely and Courtney, that'll be some good news. And Brynjolfsson looking in his mirrors at Ari Belog.
Belog's having a nice day.
Yes,
Very strong run here for Stephen Cameron Racing. BMW up into the 4th position.
And Gaples in the 5th spot right now, so also having a good run.
He's been having a good summer.
Yeah,
Tony, just like Michael, they're gradually getting to terms with this McLaren. Comes into this race 3rd in the points, Tony Gaples does. And with Andretti's drama today, he could be ever closer to 2nd position behind Stavely of the points if he continues to run in that top 5.
Absolutely. And, having a chat with the Black Dog team a little bit earlier in the season when they, some of the McLarens, there were, seemed to be some tire issues, and was talking with Ray, and he said, look, a lot of that's in our hands. And he said, we just aren't running as aggressive in terms of camber on the cars and setup on the cars. And he said, are we going to be as fast as some of them? No. but we're more likely to finish.
Right.
And that's, you know, what we're playing for right now. And I wonder if that might not be part of the story of, you know, Cooper fast in practice, but maybe not quite where they wanted to be in qualifying, etc. So, but then you look at the point scenario, and, you know, he's up there battling for a championship. So
I think this next couple of laps is going to be a telltale in terms of what Ian James is anticipating here for the end of this race. Courtney having a little peek to the inside on Stavely there, down the back straightaway. That Maserati again very strong in the high-speed sections here.
And again, it does not run ABS or traction control, but this isn't a track where, I mean, you use brakes here, but it's not, you know, a high speed into a super tight corner level of braking here. And Courtney has become very adept at wheeling this car, hasn't he?
He has. He got really comfortable with it. They've really got some good setups towards the end of last year. Really was strong every weekend, it seemed. And when the car runs well, he seems to be a factor for the big points, it seems. Great to see him back, and he anticipates if the car runs without any technical issues, competing at the next round of the championship at Road America in a few weeks' time, which is his home race, of course.
Yeah, big one based out of Madison, Wisconsin. And up front, looks like Ian James has pulled the trigger a little bit and run down the Camaros. He's trying, wasn't quite close enough to.
Yeah, it's go time for Ian. As I said, this next couple of laps is going to be an indicator of whether he wants to get the bigger points.
It'll be fun to watch. Robinson leading from Lewis. The interesting thing here will be if Ian's close enough and you get that double toe, as you pointed out, up through the S's.
Is it enough?
Yeah.
You know, it's right at the tail end, which is typically into the overtaking spots where he's going to struggle a little bit. The draft enough of a help to minimize that. Nice thing is for all of these cars with the cooler conditions, no worries about drafting and overheating anything here this weekend.
Courtney again just throwing that Maserati nose into the mirrors of Drew Stavely. Good look. All right, down into the laces. .5 minutes remaining. Boy, that battle for fourth is a good one. Cooper, Pompelli, Stavely, Courtney. And a little gap to Brynjolfsson.
Yeah, I'd be super surprised. And there we see Ian James looking to the inside. How deep will he take it in on the brakes here on Lewis? Tucks back in. You just have a feeling as a driver, am I in the zone to go for it? And he just recognized I'm a bit too far back without it getting ugly really quickly. A lot of that depends on the competitors. How much downforce and braking ability do they have?
Is he going for it this time? Boy, he made it work once before, so every time you see him in that position, you expect him to get to the inside, and he judges it and goes, nope, not quite yet. And Pompelli, see what he can do with Cooper here as well.
I'll be amazed if Spencer just sits there for the whole race without trying to do something here. Again, he'll have respect on Michael, doesn't want to do anything crazy or dangerous that's going to potentially take the cars out, but you'd have to think he'll have a little poke somewhere.
Up through the S's. Cooper gapping him just a little bit there.
Yes. Okay, I think this is where Ian's really going to key on it. Try and get a good run through it, hit through the inner loop, and see if he can start to put some pressure on before we get out of the tight section through the boot. It just tucks and goes so nicely. It's really a great handling car.
Yeah, it is.
So we really get that thing dialed in well. It's right there. He had the run on Lewis. Lewis recognized that to protect.
Yep. He's coming
just
up
trying to
underneath.
tuck. Gets to the inside. He may be able to make a move here.
Yep.
I think he'll know that Lewis will respect him a little bit. Deep on the brakes. Lewis tries to hang to the outside. Ian's just got to get in the power a little bit earlier and clear him. He does. Nice job.
Yep.
Can he make a similar move on the sister Ranch 74 machine?
Boy, and you saw Lewis as he went to the throttle, he spun him up in the curb just a little bit, and that helped. So yeah, they're liking this moment. So Ian James up into second overall. And now it's Gar Robinson feeling the heat from one of the craftiest drivers as well as quick in the business, and James right there.
These guys have a little bit of argy-bargy up in Canada earlier this year, as I remember.
They may have, yeah, I think you're right. Lewis third, Cooper fourth, Pompelli fifth.
Different dynamic when it's your teammate behind you, someone who you
Yes.
know is going to give you total respect versus a fierce competitor. Again, I don't think it's going to phase Gar Robinson. He's won a ton of races over the last few years. Not here, but in other forms of competition.
All right. And this is where Ian started his run that he completed last lap. A little closer. There's Stavely and Courtney, and you can see that Brynjolfsson has dropped off just a little bit, so it's a two-car battle for the win in AM right now. And look at how much ground he's made up already.
Yeah, this is the key. I think he's going to try and cut and paste the move he did on Lewis. See if he can roll that big speed through the apex here and then tuck it back to the inside.
That's
right there.
Yeah, ooh, he's got it. He's there. And that's interesting to me because that's what Robinson did to get the lead, if you remember. And I wasn't sure he was going to let him have it here. Side by side, it's a matter of who gets deeper in. Robinson going to try and counter and come back on the exit. James puts that car right in the perfect spot, Cal. Beautiful pass. Ian James to the lead.
Yeah, you could just sense that was where his strength was. And talk about execution. I mean, he did it on Lewis, and then he just cut and pasted the same move on Gar Robinson. Nothing that Gar could do. He was really maximizing all of the potential of his race car. Just James is so solid through there, but still got to hang on here. A couple of laps to go.
You wonder if Lewis radioed to the crew and said, tell Gar, here's where he got me, watch for it.
That crew has a lot of belief in Ian James. He's now essentially their team manager as well. So wearing a couple of hats, but making all of the right calls, it seems like.
Now this is where Ian would be a little bit susceptible here, vulnerable just on top end into this section. He's definitely going to protect. Gar's going to go to the outside and
clears him. What a move. Talk about deep on the brakes. And that is what Ian James told me this weekend. We're going to struggle down the end of these straightaways. So this time around, 1.5 laps to go. You'd have to think that Gar Robinson will protect that inside line coming off the toe of the boot. James may have to figure out a different way to get back to the front.
Well, here we go, heading toward that toe of the boot. Does James try and do something sooner here into the boot? And Gar didn't bite. He's got to keep it squared up, tight. James goes for it again. He's there. He's got the nose inside again, Cal.
Yeah, it just seems like his gear ratio is a little bit lower and he can get the power down and get the acceleration off that corner on the two Camaros. His problem's going to be how does he defend on Gar Robinson? They've still got a lap and a bit to go, so he's got to defend on that straightaway. Robinson looks to the inside. That's not going to work. That's going to cost him time. Lewis now is going to get a run on his teammate. This may be the gap that Ian James needed. A little mistake there, I think, from a race strategy standpoint by Gar Robinson has allowed Ian James to get the gap. He's going to have the hammer down, try and maximize that gap by the time he gets to the S's in the back straightaway.
And look how close Cooper is now to the back of Lewis as well as we start our final lap here in this 10th round of the championship, and Ian's got that little bit of a lead.
Critical moment there, I feel. I think Gar Robinson may get to Ian James, but a little bit later than the time he did before. A lot more ground to cover.
Yes.
That little moment there where Gar got a little bit aggressive up into turn 9, just cost him the momentum, cost him the gap. He's coming from too far back, I feel.
I think you're right. You're absolutely right. And it just didn't look like Gar could keep that car at the exit of the toe down tight enough to defend. But you're right. He just thought, well, let me try that move up into turn number 9, and it has cost him perhaps dearly. I don't think there's any question from this point on, Cal. The Panos is just working.
It really is. This is the sweet spot for Ian James. Down through here, car is carving these turns. Wonderful setup on the race car. Seems to have been strong all season long in this sort of technical section. And this is where I think just the gear ratio of that Panos off of this corner, plus the torque of the engine and the delivery that it gives him off that corner just gaps the Camaro. You can see it there. Yeah. That takes the pressure off.
Now, just keeping an eye here in that battle for 4th, Pumpelly has actually shown the nose a couple of times to Cooper now.
It'll be a big swing in the points here. Ian James
Huge.
could gap 13 points on Cooper just from this one race alone.
Yes. Pumpelly has dropped back just a little bit now. All right, here we go. 2 corners. The Panos of Ian James. The Camaro of Robinson. 1 more turn to go. Another calculating, brilliant, and quick drive by Ian James. And he will cross the line. Panos winning at Watkins Glen. Fabulous run. 3rd win of the year for Ian James. With the 2 Camaros, Robinson and Lewis 2nd and 3rd. Cooper in the McLaren for Black Dog 4th. Pumpelly 5th. Going to drag race right at the line here for the final podium spot in the AM category. Looks like Brynjolfsson held off Ari Belog. But Stavely and Courtney going 1-2 in the AM category, Cal.
That was a great race.
Wow, wasn't it?
Just a real chess match there, and with the reset, just wonderfully managed. I thought for Ian James, initially he was so worried about Cooper, but he was thinking big picture. Then once he took care of that, he then focused back on the lead and did a wonderful job of getting it to the front twice.
Yep, that was pretty special stuff. And enjoying his moment here. Boy, you earned this one, my friend. Well done. Here's the pass on Robinson. This is the one that it made it stick, and then Robinson's counter move felt was probably not the thing to do.
No, he just gets the nose in there and just loses a lot of momentum, and Ian James recognized that was on the power and just took off on him. You see Gar there coming off. Shallow approach to the corner means he's wide coming off, and that gave Ian all of the breathing room that he needed.
Yeah, fabulous run for James and the Panos team. And again, Stavely getting another win in the AM category. The margin to Courtney, 0.28, so a quarter of a second essentially. Closer even than the James Robinson margin. Completing the AM podium, Ari Belog and Tony Gapel. So a good run for Tony. Marco Radisek had a nice run up into 6th in AM. Let's take a look here at the provisional results. Now again, from the 10th round of the championship first race of this doubleheader weekend. And there you see the margins there, and again, just another absolutely heady drive, for lack of a better term, for Ian James. And Robinson, Lewis, Cooper, and Pumpelly, your top 5. And that's a big swing that you're talking about. Here's the original start of the race. And for a while, it looked like Jared Andretti had this under control.
He really did. He took off from that pole position. An amazing start to this race. Ian James lost a couple of positions. Then we saw some battling going on throughout the field.
Marco Radisek looking to take a spot away from Mark Clennon as they head down into turn 1. The BMW on the McLaren slides through, makes that one stick. Then the problems potentially for Andretti. Ran a little wide there, and Robinson, that same spot in the toe of the boot, and is able to get through. Great respect by these two through this turn.
It really was a nice positioning there from Gar coming off of that corner to not allow Andretti another run at him. Then a lap later, I believe it was, Shane Lewis got a similar run on Jared Andretti, and Ian James was just sitting there positioning himself for the end of this race. was taking advantage of every opportunity that arose.
And the problems here, we had the problem with Andretti, then the right front here for Burton, who had put on a tremendous drive. Then this move here to pick up the lead down into the heel of the boot. And once again, then you had the drive-by by Robinson going into the inner loop, and then James repeating it once again down into the heel of the boot. And then the response here by Robinson cost him some momentum, and that was enough. And Robinson able to drive off and pick up the win. Ryan.
Hey, Greg, thank you very much. We're here with Ian James. What a finish to that race, swapping positions with Gar Robinson a couple of times there. Take us through the last few laps from where you were sitting.
Yeah, well, first off, hi to the Panos family back home. But it was, the first half of the race, I decided I've got to look after my tyre as much as possible. So I had Gar and Shane in front of me, which was a great way to just drag me around. And I just tried to sit there and conserve. But then I had a shot, I had better traction than him at the end there. So I got by him, but then he dragged back by me, and then but I made it stick the second time. But thrilling race.
A fantastic race, great win, and great for the championship as well. Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks to everybody that makes this program happen.
Yeah, big swing in the points. Great job.